As many of you probably know, I'm a huge video game collector. I literally own hundreds of physical games in my collection. That being said, considering this is something that I've been doing for basically my entire life now, so like over 2 decades, there's definitely been some things that I've picked up on, some things that I've encountered, and just things that still kind of irk me to this day about video game collecting. There's many things I could have chosen from, but today I specifically 5 things above anything else that seriously irk me with a bit of a bonus thing in there, so let's just go ahead and get right into this. So the first thing, and I absolutely hate, fluctuating markets / secondhand markets / artificial, I guess, inflation of prices on those secondhand markets, whether it be through video game resellers like certain retro video game stores. Not all of them, just the ones where, you know, they care more about the money rather than the consumer. And then you have like eBay and Mercari, and the list goes on and on. There's 2 different kinds of sellers on these sites. You have the sellers where they're like, hey, you know, we're selling a bundle or a lot, whatever you want to call it, of video games. They'll sell it to you for a nice bargain while still allowing them to profit to a certain extent, and that's that. But then you also have the other ones where they're like, I heard this video game's starting to get a little rare, so then they try to just bump up that price just slightly, and then they push it further and further and further to see how far they can get away with it until we get to a point where, like, you know, the Spider-Man games are over MSRP by a wide margin, anywhere from being $60+ to $100+ in some cases. And I absolutely despise that. In the world of video games, I wish it was illegal for video games to ever go above MSRP, because at the very least, even if an older game was still going for $59.99 for some reason, like, hey, if like Spider-Man Web of Shadows on the PS3 was still $59.99, then I'd be like, hey, at least it's not above MSRP, at least I can pick it up. But in some cases, we've seen it go upwards of like $100+. Thankfully, that is a game that I own in my collection on multiple platforms, so I won't have to worry about that one in particular, but I do feel for the folks that haven't gotten to pick those games up. In fact, that goes for all the Spider-Man games. You know, obviously I've been following Spider-Man for my entire life, so I'm lucky enough to have like literally all of the Spider-Man games in my collection, so I don't have to worry about the artificial scarcity or, you know, like the prices or whatever that comes with trying to pick up the games on the secondhand market, whether that be in person or online. Another great example of this in recent times would have been Spec Ops: The Line, where it just got delisted off of the Xbox and PlayStation and PC marketplaces. And now it's like going for an egregious amount of money online, anywhere from like $30+ to $60+ in some cases. I've even seen for some listings, whereas a couple years ago, you know, I used to have the game on PS3 way back in the day, back at launch, but then, you know, just through with moves and stuff, I ended up, you know, losing that game over time, so I re-picked it up again like 2 or 3 years ago on the Xbox 360 to play through, because that game is an absolute masterpiece, and I got it for less than $10, and now, like, I'm not the type of guy that ever sells my video games. Like, I don't care how much their value is. Literally, one of my games could be worth $1,000+, and I just wouldn't sell it. I buy my video games because I love them and have that emotional attachment to them. I will never sell them. But still, if I wanted to, I could flip it and sell it for literally like 5 to 8 times what I paid for it. And it's just, it's insane. And in my opinion, it's a little ridiculous. Now, this one isn't one of the things that I hate, but it is something that comes along with buying games online, and that is 2 different instances. False advertising, as well as just not showing you the entire picture. So I remember when I had just repurchased my PS3 a couple years ago, because again, had a PS3 back in the day, but due to some things and, you know, parents splitting up, this, that, and the other, I just, you know, kind of lost that over time. And while I was repurchasing my PS3, obviously one of my main things was like, hey, I gotta rebuy all the Call of Duty games for the PS3, just because, you know, any console that I buy, if there's Call of Duty on it, I'm gonna buy it. I'm just, you know, I'm a sucker for the series. But anyway, one of the things that I bought was the Black Ops trilogy. Yes, I know the last version of Black Ops 3, people like to clown on it. Me, I kind of have some nostalgia for this version, and yes, I do still go back and play this, even though I have the Xbox, PC, and PlayStation versions of the game. Sometimes I pop it in for nostalgia because I didn't have a next-gen console, or what was next-gen console at the time that this game released. But anyway, when I bought the Black Ops trilogy, Black Ops 1 and 2, they showed up in phenomenal condition. In Black Ops 3, it seemed to be in phenomenal condition in all the pictures. But the one thing they didn't show or even mention in the description, and I went back and checked just to make sure, is the fact that there's a little crack in the case right there. As you can see, there's a little piece of it missing. Is it a huge deal? Well, kind of, because when it's on my shelf, this is the part that's sticking out. So I still want to buy a replacement case for this at some point. Not a top priority at the moment, because I'm still just going through and just trying to, you know, collect a bunch of other games for my PS3 at this point. But yeah, to say that this irked me when I first got it would be understatement of the decade. So the second thing that irks me is artificial scarcity, and the first thing that comes to mind is Nintendo with Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And then this goes a little bit further with some things like limited run games and all those other things. Now, let me just get this out of the way. I love limited run games. Personally, I don't really buy that many limited run games. I believe I only have like maybe 1 or 2 limited run games in my collection. And, it's really one of those things where I support the idea of limited run games. It's just that I hate the fact that after they do these limited runs, the value of them on the market just shoots way up. Like, they are such a big company. I feel like if they could at least, like, you know, in some cases maybe at least double the print run they do, because sometimes they only do like 2,500 things for a game, and it's just like, huh? There are 7 billion people on this planet, and you're only gonna make 2,500 copies of this thing, and you know for a fact that some people are gonna pick up multiple copies and then they scalp them and, you know, do whatever with them. And again, it's nothing necessarily against limited run themselves or what they're trying to do. I fully support them, and yeah, it really doesn't even have anything to do with the company. It's just rather like, I don't know, there's something just about the stigma of like, hey, this is a limited run of a game, and then, I don't know, they put it out, and then the value just goes through the roof, and then at that point, it's like, yeah, sure, it's been preserved in some physical way, but at the same time, there's not really any way for people after the fact, if they weren't there, it's almost like FOMO, right? Like, if you don't order it in the moment, you're just gonna miss out on getting that game physically, like, forever, which does kind of suck. So I don't know, as you can tell, I'm very split on this. Like, in some instances, yes, I fully support the idea and I want them to keep doing these runs, but at the same time, I wish that maybe they could find a way to up production on them or just some way to balance out the market. I'm not really sure. And again, in the world of video game flipping and scummy resellers, it's just kind of an inevitability no matter, you know, what we're looking at, whether it's indie game limited runs or AAA games, you know, as we were just talking about before with things like Spec Ops: The Line and the Spider-Man games going up. It's just inevitability of the market, I suppose. Next up, this is a 2-in-1, but we're gonna kind of break it down from least worst to worst. So the first part of this, okay, let me just grab a PS3 game. Oh, look at this. Look at this absolutely beautiful case. You know, I could have even grabbed one of the original PS3 cases. I'm not sure which case I prefer. I like them both for different reasons. You know, the original PS3 where it says PlayStation 3 on the side is super nostalgic, and the red on top looks cool, but I must admit on the shelf, this PS3 thing right here, just all black all along, does look pretty clean. So, I don't know, like, they both look amazing in their own ways. But anyway, as you can see, a clean copy of Dark Souls 2, looks great on the side, looks great on the back, everything is beautiful. It looks great on the shelf, and then, this thing, this demonic creation, this mistake, greatest hits cases. Why? Why is it so red? Like, when it's on the shelf, like, when you have, like, you know, you're like me and you got like 20 of these things in a row, and then all of a sudden just this blood red time of the month case sitting there staring back at you. It's just, I don't know. And the sides, see, it's not even like, you know, like the black to line up with the PS3. It's kind of like this weird blood maroon red. And then usually these greatest hits cases, like, I could at least forgive it if the cover arts were the same, but usually they have like all this stuff just plastered all over it. So like, rather instead of than just getting like, you know, the cover art or whatever, one of the worst examples I can think of is like Batman Arkham City. I'll put a picture up on screen of like the original version of the game or the original cover art versus the greatest hits version. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's one of those things that I go back and forth on, right? Because on one hand, it's like kind of cool. It's like, hey, this game earned its spot in the greatest hits thing. You know, it has a special case because it's like, hey, it sold really well. It's like one of the defining games of the generation or one of the best selling games of the generation, or at least it met like a certain threshold. So it was like, hey, it deserves this case. And in that aspect, I kind of respect it. And it's really cool to have games like that on the shelves. It's like, hey, yeah, that was like a great whatever. But at the same time, I'm the type of guy where I don't even care about getting certain editions of the game where it has like DLC on disc, which is another thing I kind of go back and forth on. Like, it's one of those things where I don't need that version of the game. Sometimes I'll even double dip and get a first print run of the game and then go back and get a version that has all the DLC on disc, just because I like having that first print run, like, cover art of the game, which is another thing kind of like with Batman Arkham City, like I was talking about. So there's actually two versions of that Game of the Year / Greatest Hits thing, where there's a normal Black Label one, which has that cover art with all the stuff on it that I don't really like as much as the original, but it does still have all the DLC on disc, and it is also a Black Label like this. But then there's another version that's a Greatest Hits, which has all of the same content on it. And while yes, technically the Black Label actually does have extra content over that Greatest Hits version, because the Black Label one does come with a code for the Batman Year One animated movie. At this point, if you pick up the game, it's more than likely either been used or is most definitely expired. There's no getting around that. So yeah, but regardless, you know, like, I feel like in the PS3 or the PS2 case, even, like, you know, it's like, okay, even though I would prefer to just have the first print run of the game with that original cover art, I can at least live with this. I'll never go out of my way to buy it, and I'll never intentionally buy it. In fact, this was one of those instances where I bought it on Amazon. It had a Black Label, and they sent me a Greatest Hits version. But it only gets worse the deeper that you dig into this. So again, we're going from least worst to worst. You know how the PS4 cases are blue normally with the nice blue thing on top? Here's my copy of Bloodborne. It's just, there's the red, and then the blue, and then the red again. PlayStation Hits, and it's just, oh, you got the red. I mean, it's cool because it kind of lines up with the Bloodborne thing, but I mean, I will say this, right? Because the Greatest Hits version of the game, they changed the color to kind of line up with it, because normally it would just be like blue and white on the normal Bloodborne thing, so it's kind of cool in that sense, because it's like, almost like a special edition of the game. I do still want to get like a normal blue label version of this game at some point. This was another one, got it on Amazon. Ooh, Bloodborne, but then they sent me the PlayStation Hits version for some reason, even though that's not the one they had listed. But it gets even worse. If you go back to the early days of the Xbox 360, we have this monstrosity. What is this? There's literally a tear coming out of my eye, but the worst thing is that this isn't even as bad as it gets. You thought this was bad. Look at what GameStop gave me. They've been doing this for generations, and you know, I would say at some points it's almost been worse. I mean, like this, at least they got the logo on it. You know how PS2 games are supposed to look. Here's Final Fantasy X. It's an absolutely gorgeous game, ain't it? Oh, and actually, this is going to be relevant in a couple of seconds. You can't see it at the moment, but we're going to be talking about that in the next thing. But again, still just great copy of the game. Looks gorgeous. And then here's my copy of Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I just I definitely need to order like at least a case for this game, because obviously, you know, I had the game. The game works, and I mean, it's just I at the very least, even if I don't get like a new case or copy for the game, I at least need to find a way to print out the official cover art just so I have something. I always prefer to have the original, official, printed cover art from the factory or whatever, but like, if I can't find a case for this thing, I will literally just go to my printer. Anything is better than this. Next up, I actually have a couple examples that could work for this. Now, most of the times when I buy games, I peel these things off immediately just because I like having, again, my games being as default as possible. First print run of the game, nothing else on the case. No stickers, no stupid splashy text, nothing extra or crazy, just the game, the cover art as it's meant to be. But sometimes, well, not even just sometimes, just all the time, whenever you're shopping on eBay or Mercari or, you know, retro gaming stores, there's gonna be these GameStop stickers. And it's pretty bad when it's on the side of the games. I mean, I'd say actually no. It's even worse when it's on the front of the game and it's just like, you peel it. You know what? I take all that back. It's just bad no matter what. I wish putting these stickers on these games was illegal, because it always leaves that unless you peel it off within like the first like couple days of it being put on there. It's gonna be all the residue, and it's just like, come on, man. Especially for the retro game stores out there, it's like, don't you respect your games? Aren't you doing this because you love your games? Why are you destroying your games? This one I haven't even tried to peel off yet because it looks all gunky and gooey, so I already knew. I just know I'm gonna need some Goo Gone to get that off, and I mean, then we have the GameStop case once again. As you can see, ugly sticker. That's another one where it's like, you know, the case is so ugly that I don't even care. But then Final Fantasy X. I was able to get the sticker off, but unfortunately, all that residue was left behind, so I'm going to need Goo Gone regardless. And as you can see, you can probably even see it in the light. Yeah, you can see all the residue from the sticker right there. Like, yeah, I got the sticker off. It still looks pretty clean, but I'm still going to need Goo Gone, which at the end of the day isn't a huge deal because Goo Gone is only like, I don't know, $8 on eBay. Same thing on the back. I tried my best to get it off, but you can still kind of see it there. And see, normally what I do with games when I'm trying to get the sticker off is I'll use like a baby wipe or something like that, because as long as you just keep it on the plastic and you don't like, you got to make sure that none of the liquid or none of the wetness from the wipe actually like, you know, goes over the plastic onto the cover art, because that can damage it. But as long as you keep it on the outside, which I might even recommend just taking the cover art out completely before doing that, you just scrub it off. That'll help get the sticker off, and then afterwards you can hit it with some Goo Gone or something like that. Somehow I forgot to mention this in the video, but even worse than having these stickers on the cases is when the stickers are literally on the cover art. Now, I've had times where the stickers come off easily, but there's also been other times where they have not. And let me just say, never mind, I shouldn't say anything. I can feel my blood boiling. Let's just get back to the video. But I can't tell you how many games in my collection either have residue here or just have stickers still stuck on them. I'm just, you know, thankfully Goo Gone does exist, so there is a way to circumvent that, and I still gotta buy some, but yeah, just stickers, they gotta go. And finally, I am proud to say that I don't have any of these in my collection, though I almost could have if things went any worse. And I don't even know why these things exist. You know, these things are literally just, they're coasters after you buy them. That would be digital-only physical games. Now, granted, this is not a digital-only physical game. If I open it up, as you can see, the card is still in there. And by the way, Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle, this is just, both Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle and Sparks of Hope are both amazing games. If you haven't played them, or if you've just been kind of like eyeing them up, they go on sale like all the time. I've seen it as low as like 15 bucks, so definitely like pick up either Sparks of Hope or Kingdom Battle. But there is another edition of this game that literally has this huge sticker at the top. I'll put a picture up on screen that says like full digital game download code inside, and you literally open it up up and there's nothing inside. Like, you'll open it up and on the side they'll have like a code right there, and then over here it's the same thing where there's like a spot for the cartridge, but there's no cartridge. It's literally just the code, and that's it. To a certain extent, it's kind of cool having something like that, because then for certain games, like I think of Call of War as Gunslinger on the Nintendo Switch. I ended up just buying that one on the eShop for like $4 because I used to love that game back in the day on like, you know, like the Xbox 360 and stuff, and then I saw it on sale over on the Switch. I was like, well, let's see how it runs, and you know, surprisingly, it's almost like a remaster almost of like the Xbox 360 version, because I just found that interesting, because there isn't even like an Xbox One or PS4 dedicated version out there, so technically the Switch would be the best version of that game, which is really interesting when you think about it that way. So in one sense, it's kind of cool getting these things, because for games like that or like Fortnite, like you can at least have something physical and tangible to hold, to be like, hey, here's the cover art, here's the back of the case, here's the side. Like, it's really cool still having something like that, where like in any other circumstance you wouldn't be able to hold it, see the cover art there. But at the same time, you know, when it comes to buying physical games, anytime I'm buying physical, I would obviously prefer to actually just, you know, have the thing there, because when you use a code, you can only use it once, and then once it's used once, well, if something happens to your account, whether you get locked out of it, whether it gets banned for some reason, even if it's not your fault, or whether just licenses, whatever, you know, I mean, we've been hearing about that stuff all in the news, where, you know, the companies are just trying to take away our games or other media or movies or shows or whatever, even though we paid for this stuff in the past, and then it just goes bye-bye. Whereas something like this, where you actually have the cartridge, you own that game forever until the end of time. And I mean, look at this right here, Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I picked this up in like what, I don't remember the exact year, sometime in the 2000s at GameStop. I mean, obviously, you know, it has like the PlayStation 2 case, so I don't even remember when they stopped selling PlayStation 2 games. I know it was a while ago, but, you know, I've had this game, and I was literally just playing it like a couple weeks ago, and it still worked. Whereas if I would have bought the game digital, I mean, obviously there wasn't a digital store place for the PS2 or anything like that at the time, but if there was, you can already bet I probably wouldn't even be able to re-download it if I purchased it at the time, which, you know, that's the reason that I collect video games. That's the reason why I am all physical. Granted, sometimes I do buy digital games if it's, you know, a situation where like, hey, I'm trying to game share with somebody that I'm game shared with on Xbox, or if somebody else already, you know, bought it that I'm game shared with, and sure, I'll get it there. If there's like a subscription service like Game Pass, PlayStation Plus Extra, or Premium, which I am subscribed to all of those. I am subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online, PS Plus Premium, and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. But anytime that I'm buying a game for my collection, I will 99.999% of the time get it physical, unless it's a situation where, like, say on Xbox, they have an Xbox 360 game that's on sale for like $3, whereas physically it costs you like, you know, above MSRP. At that point, it's like, hey, I just want to play this game. I'll get it for now, and if I see it drop down the line, or if somewhere like I feel like I really need it and I have the big baller bucks, then I'll spend it. But for the most part, just 99.9999999% of the time, I will always buy and navigate for physical in any and every situation, unless, again, it's a situation where it's so scalped on the secondhand market. But that's a very niche situation, so yeah, might as well just say 100% of the time, it's always better to go physical. But anyway, those are 5 things that kind of just irk me as a video game collector. So now I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. Is there anything in particular that kind of irks you about video game collecting? Like, whether I feel like I'm going to hear a lot about like the secondhand markets in the comments, like when it comes to like eBay and Mercari prices or just other stuff like that. I feel like we're going to see a lot of that, and that's totally okay. I share your frustration. This is a safe place. Doesn't matter what it is. Feel free to friend. I would love to hear from you guys. But anyway, as always, massive shout out, thank you to all the Patreons and channel members. Thank you to all of you in the low baller tier, and your mega shout out, thank you to all of you in the mid baller tier. My last game, Dad Manny, the biggest shout out to all of you in the G tier run events. Some of the cheese girl. Thank you guys so much. You guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.